Welcome to 5% Radio, where it's all about learning like no one else today so you can live like no one else tomorrow. Please be sure to share and subscribe. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, "Press on," has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. That is a quote by Calvin Coolidge, and today I want to talk about stickability, persistence, and what a man from the early to mid-1800s has to teach you about hitting your goals. So welcome back to the 5% Radio Podcast. Today is episode 7. Let's get to it. Here's the deal. If you have a goal, if you have something you want to accomplish, you have to want it. Now, I know that sounds obvious. Well, you just said if I have something that I want to accomplish, I have to want it. Yes, but you have to want it enough to actually stick through and push through all the garbage that is going to come between you and your achieving that goal. There's going to be stuff that comes. Now, for an example of this, look at anyone who has ever done anything successful in their life. They did not say, you know what, I would like to be a huge success, and then they woke up the next morning after putting in one day of work and they were successful. That's not how this works. Again, I always go back to, I don't care what you want to do, because success is success is success. Success principles apply to anything you want them to apply to. If I want to have a better, let's say that I want to gain 20 pounds. I'm lifting and I want to gain 20 pounds of muscle. I'm not going to go into the gym tomorrow and hit that goal. I might get injured along the way, or I might gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight. I gain a bunch of weight. I'm almost there, almost hit my goal, and then I end up getting sick. Now I've lost weight. There will always be obstacles. There was another quote, and the man said, "Obstacles are those frightful things we see when we take our eyes off the goal." So you've got to know what you want. You've got to want it enough to actually push through all of the garbage, all the trash, all of the struggles and difficulties that are going to come along the way of you actually achieving that goal. So you have to want it bad enough to stick. You've got to have what's called stickability. There's a book that I'm finishing up right now. I started it a while back, and I've just been kind of reading a few books at a time, but it's called Grit, and it talks about basically people having the ability to stick and actually finish. Do one thing and finish that until completion. There's a little acronym for focus, and it's follow one course until successful, but you've got to have the desire and the ability to push through what comes at you. You don't have to be good at what you want to achieve. That doesn't have to, you can learn the skill set along the process, and I'll talk about that in further episodes. You've got to want whatever your goal is bad enough to actually push through all of the crap that's going to come your way. So here's a great example of stickability. Now, this man lived back in the 1800s. I'll tell you who he is at the very end, but in 1831, this man started his first business at the age of 22, and it failed. In 1832, he was defeated for legislator. In 1833, he started another business, and that one failed. In 1836, he suffered a traumatic mental breakdown. In 1840, this guy was defeated for elector and has another mental breakdown. He's 32 years old, and he has now already suffered 2 mental breakdowns. He's been striving for the exact same goal, which you'll find out at the end of the story, but he's been striving for the exact same goal over and over, and he wants a political office, and he's working at it and working at it and working at it. And many people nowadays will look at this guy and say, oh, he was one of the greatest people in his field, and he was amazing and this and that. But if you look at his life, if you were to pull back the curtain and see the struggle as he's climbing the mountain towards his goal at the top, he's not someone you would look at and say, oh, he's super successful, he's doing everything it takes, man, he's a hustler, he's absolutely going to hit his goals. It got so bad during the second mental breakdown that his friends, his super close friends, out of fear that he would kill himself, went into his room and confiscated all of the knives, razors, scissors. They took everything away because the guy was so down, so depressed, so just down and out in the dumps about all of this. I've been working for the same goal and I keep failing. I'm not able to achieve it. He was so depressed that his closest friends, the people that knew him best, thought, man, this guy's going to kill himself. He gets back up. He starts trying again. In 1843, he's defeated for a congressional nomination. In 1846, again, still trying over and over, and he's been trying since 1831 when he started and had his first business fail. In 1846, he was elected for Congress, had a small win, and then, boop, right back down the mountain along the way to the goal. In 1848, he was defeated for Congress. In 1850, one of his sons died of what they thought was either typhoid fever or tuberculosis at a very young age. Kid wasn't even 4 years old yet, dies. Fast forward a couple years, in 1855, he was defeated for Senate. In 1856, he was defeated for Vice President. And in 1859, he was defeated for Senate. Again, see, up until now, this guy still sounds like a loser. Probably most people are looking at him. He's working a job while he's doing all this. He's a lawyer. Some of you may be starting to know who this is, but he's a lawyer. He's having to work a job, and then he is just tenaciously striving for this goal, reaching, trying, failing, over and over and over and over again. In 1856, though, he's defeated for vice president. In 1859, he's defeated for Senate again. And then finally in 1860, Abraham Lincoln becomes president of the United States. So this guy went through 29 years, almost 29 years, close to 30 years, almost 3 decades of constant failure. The only thing that he had in there that gave him even a tiny bit, just a small shred of hope, was that 1846 when he was elected for Congress. Little win there, and then boom, right back down to failure for another 14 years. So basically, for almost 16 years, he tried and failed. Kid died, tried and failed again, and then he gets a small win, a little bit of breathing room. It looks like I'm going to accomplish my goal, and then he fails again. He gets removed from office, and there's another 14 years before he becomes the president. Now, from the outside looking, and see, if this were 2023 Abraham Lincoln, or whatever year this is that you're listening, if this was modern day Abe Lincoln, he would probably be posting vacation pics, and he'd be posting on social media and sending out tweets and posting Instagram stories, and people would be like, it must be nice to be Abe. Like, that's such amazing. He has such an amazing life. Him and his family look so happy, and they look like they're doing so well. And he's so depressed at one point that his friends are taking away knives, razors, and scissors from the room that he lives in because they're afraid he's going to kill himself. And people would look at his life from the outside and say, man, you know what? It must be nice to be him. See, once he gets to president in 1860, it must be nice. And people will do the same thing for you along the way to reach your goals. They're going to look at you along the way to reach your goals. I don't care what they are. And they're going to say, man, there's no possible way. Why are they still trying? He or she is so self-deluded that they're so pie in the sky. They've got these goals. There's no way. And they will make fun of you behind your back. They will doubt you, and they will even doubt you to your face. Some people will criticize you for having goals and dreams. This is such a common thing, and there's something, I'm going to do an entire podcast episode on it, but there's something to do. There's a specific type of crab. I don't want to get into it now because it's like spoils the entire episode that I want to do, but basically there's these crabs, and they will not let one another escape a cage or a bucket or something else. They'll literally pull each other down, and there's a lot of people in your life like that, and they are just wanting to pull you down. They don't want you to leave what they are used to. They don't want you to move forward in your life, because if you move forward, it puts an indirect pressure on them, and it kind of holds them up to a mirror themselves and says, look, you're not moving on with your life. So it's not because they don't love you or because they're trying to be mean. They just either they don't understand the goal, they don't understand the journey that you're going to have to take to get towards what you want to achieve. They don't get that there's a process. People don't see process. They see failure and they see success. They do not understand the process. If you want to lose 100 pounds, there's going to be a process. If you have a terrible relationship right now in your life with your parent, one of your kids, your marriage, with someone at your work, with someone in your company, there is a process that's going to have to take place for you to repair that. If you want to go from making 50 grand a year to 6 figures a year, or from 6 figures to $500,000 or $500,000 to $1 million, there's going to be a process in that journey. If you want to go from being in debt up to your eyeballs to getting out of debt, there is a process. And okay, I get it, Jesse, you've given enough examples, but people do not understand process. Trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. I don't care what your goal is, there's a process. And for Abe Lincoln, his process was try, fail, try, fail, try, over and over and over again. Nobody saw behind the scenes. How many people do you think actually knew about Abe Lincoln before he became the president? There were some people, yes, that knew about him, had known him since he was a kid. I don't know why Abe just doesn't give up on this dream. Poor Abe, he thinks he's going to get successful. No one from his family. There were all these people, but there was also a ton of people that never even met him, never knew him, never had heard his name until he became president, and people will be the same way with you in your journey to reach your goals. They will not know who you are. They don't care about the struggle. They will not care about your story, the process at all until you actually get to the goal. Then they are fine with hearing the story. And then and only then will you find out who really supports you and who is just giving lip service. Because some people, believe it or not, you will reach your goal and they will, instead of being happy for you, they will be jealous of you and they will try to throw stones at you and they will not want to see you do well. Don't ask me why this is, because I genuinely don't understand it, but there's something that Zig Ziglar talked about in one of his books or one of his talks that he gave years and years and years ago, or wrote years and years ago, and it was this. It was SNIOPS, and it stood for Susceptible to the Negative Influences of Other People, SNIOPS. And you cannot be susceptible to the negative influences of other people if you really want to hit your goal. You can either care about what people think, or you can care about and trust the process of your goal. People will doubt you. They will try to bring you down to their level of thinking. If they have no dreams, they will try to steal yours. If they give up on theirs, they're coming for yours next. So you have to know what you want. You have to have such a burning desire to have it that you're willing to stick through all of the struggle. There's a little saying, and it's dream, struggle, victory. You're going to have a dream. You're going to have a goal that you want. In between you getting that goal, in between the dream and the victory, there will always be a struggle. People only publish their highlight reel, though. This is what we don't understand. We see people on the top of the mountain. Whenever I say the top of the mountain, I mean they're living a 5%. They're living an amazing life. They're accomplishing their goals. They look like, man, they're doing everything they want to do. I wish I could have that, whatever area that is for you. So this person's on top of the mountain. You did not see the valleys. You didn't see the climb. You didn't see the time when they were almost to the top. They were almost at the goal, and they fell halfway or almost all the way back down the mountain. You didn't see the bankruptcy. You didn't see the failed relationships before they're married to who they're married to. You didn't see any of that stuff. You didn't see all the people that they had to date and break up with to find the spouse that they are just have an amazing marriage with. You didn't see all the fights that couple had to go through to actually get to the place where they can communicate and not scream at each other. You didn't see the process of the guy that runs a huge successful business. You didn't see all the years of just being broke and being frustrated and working his butt off. You didn't see all that stuff. People show their highlight reel. So don't forget this. When you see someone that's successful, think of Abe Lincoln. 1860 was his highlight reel. That was his highlight reel. That's what people can look at and say, man, that guy made a difference. He's successful. He helped end slavery. He did some amazing things with his life. What a great guy. But up until 1860, he was just another dude. He was just another grinder, people would say. He was just trying, and he's a failure, and oh, he's a dreamer, and he might never That was him. But in 1860, all of that hard work came to fruition. See, it's not the first attempt or the second attempt that made him Abe Lincoln. It's not the fact that he tried one more time. It's not the fact that he tried two more times. It's the fact that he had a goal and he was not going to quit until he achieved that goal. I fully believe that if you have a goal, if you have a dream, there's a reason that you have that, and there's probably a process that you're going to go through along the way to become the person necessary to achieve that goal. I have several goals that I might spend my entire lifetime running after in a healthy way, not in an obsessive, dissatisfied, but I have things that I want in my life, and it may take me years and years and years and years and years. Again, back to episode 6, delayed gratification. I might have to sacrifice what I want now for what I want most long term. It might take me a long time to get there, but at the end of the day, life really is, as corny as it sounds, the journey is more important sometimes than the destination. How many of you have gone on a vacation and the anticipation and the travel on the way to get there and, getting on the plane, getting off the plane, getting out of the rental car, or whatever, actually pulling up to the place, like all of that was almost more exciting and more invigorating and gave you more just like relief and relaxation, gave you more of that feeling than the actual being there, the vacation itself. Sometimes that happens. I don't know, maybe not for you, but that's happened for me. But it's about the journey. Lincoln wrote this in his journal as he was at one of his lowest points. He said, I am now the most miserable man living. Talk about being dramatic. He said, I'm now the most miserable man living. If what I feel were equally distributed to the whole human family, there would not be one cheerful face on earth. Whether I shall ever be better, I cannot tell. I awfully forebode I shall not. To remain as I am is impossible. I must die or be better, it appears to me. I must die or be better. In other words, I'm going to hit my goal because I have to grow as a person, or I will die trying. What is it in your life right now that you must quote unquote die or be better? Either I've got to change to hit this goal, or it's not going to happen. I must die or be better. I must die. I've got to change. See, the difference between winners and losers, people that do something with their life and people that choose not to. And notice I said choose not to. No one's a victim of circumstance. No one has it so bad that they cannot achieve the thing that they want to if they really are willing to do whatever it takes. But the difference between people that hit their goals and people that don't is winners hate losing enough to change, whereas losers hate change enough to lose. So the winner is willing to go through whatever change to become whatever person they need to become to not have to be stuck where they're at and actually have to get to where they want to go. But a loser, and I'm not saying a person as a whole is a loser, but someone who chooses to lose in their life, someone who settles for failure or less than what they are capable of or less than what they really want in life, they are less willing to change and more willing to be stuck and dissatisfied and upset. So winners hate losing enough to change, and losers hate change enough to lose. So what is the area that you need to, quote, die or be better in? Because Abe Lincoln, he had amazing stickability. He's a phenomenal example of what it looks like to actually pursue your goals. And I think we can all learn a lesson from his journey. Real quick, guys, if you have not gone through and listened to every episode so far, if you're just kind of, picking and choosing, it's a buffet, I understand you can do that, but I do kind of build these episodes on one another, and I'm putting them out in a way that they really benefit. One episode might tee you up for the next one, and the things that you learned in the previous episodes may have helped you understand this episode more, so do be sure to go back and listen to all those. Also, we do have a Facebook group. If you want to check the show notes, there is a link for the Facebook group. I really want to interact with you on a personal level, and speaking of interacting on a personal level, I have another weekly win to share with you. This just got introduced in episode 6. If you want to submit your weekly wins and get a shout out on the show for exactly what you've changed since starting to listen to this type of content, go to the show notes and click on where it says click here to share your weekly win, or you can go to www.5percentradio.com/wins, WINS. But here's the weekly win for today. So one of our friends, my wife and I, actually ended up, they shared this with us personally. We were around them. They've been listening to the show since it launched. And shout out to Miranda and her husband, Robert, in Ohio. So Miranda, love her to death. She was drinking a ton of energy drinks and, those like double shot Starbucks things, which admittedly, I love those things. I don't drink them a ton because they have so many carbs and just it's wasted calories, and they're expensive. I love those things, but man, they're kind of expensive if you're going to drink 2 or 3 a day. So she was doing like 3 of those things a day, and she ended up cutting back. I think she is weaning herself back to 1 or none per day already, and I've not addressed anything on this show that talks about that, but she's like, you know what, I want to make a change, and she chose to make that specific change. Now, her husband, who has also been listening to the show, good buddy of mine, Robert, he has actually already dropped 5 pounds, and he's texting me like, hey, what can I do to hit this weight goal, and I need to get back in the gym. So he's all motivated and he's excited. He's getting personal momentum in his life, and that excites me, guys, because I really, number one, I started the show to give people better information so they can learn how to go from a 95% to a 5% life. Not everyone is thinking 5% life means time and money freedom. Like that might not be your dream, but if you're making little changes along the way, then I'm fired up. I'm excited about that. So I do want to hear from you personally. Just as a reminder, we do have a way for you to send these in directly to me. These go to me. They don't go to anyone else. They go straight to me, and you can actually just go to that page that I talked about. There's a link in the description for submitting changes that you made, and it's just going to ask for your name, email, state you live in, and exactly what changes you made. I might be reaching out to you via email just to really get the full story, and eventually I want to have it to where people can go on and send in a voice memo of exactly what they've changed, and then I can actually just air that on the show, download it, and upload it to the podcast itself during that episode. So I think that'd be really cool just to get every single week, 3 or 4 weekly wins at the beginning of every single episode. How cool would that be, and what kind of a community aspect would that build to the show? I've never seen anything like that, and I would love to create that here on 5% Radio. So anyway, if you have a win to share, if you've made some changes from listening to this type of content, I do want to hear about it. Please do send it in, and I will share that on the show.